Right then, well, asking for predictions at the start of the season is a bit of a fool's errand, but it's great because if these guys get them spectacularly wrong, we have them on record and they'll come back to haunt you, gents. So we're going to start with you, John. We've asked you all to pick your top 8, your eventual winners, your underachievers and your dark horses. Do you want to go first?
I'm hoping it's going to come up on the screen soon because I can't really remember what I said, to be honest.
There it is.
There we go. Yeah, no real surprise, I don't think, for me. I think Leinster will top it. I think Stormers, Sharks, Munster go through it. I think Glasgow were strong last year, dropped off towards the end of the season. I don't think Edinburgh can be as poor, and they've actually got a pretty strong squad. I think Ulster down at 8th may surprise some people a little bit. I think they've, and we'll talk about them later, a few departures this year, not necessarily replaced them for me. Stormers as winners, I think, with South Africa in the World Cup, I think we're going to see that knock-on effect, potentially, if they go on and win the World Cup. And who's my biggest underachiever, did I say?
Ulster,
yeah. It's like Stevie straight in there, ready to show the knife.
Benetton as dark horses.
Benetton as dark horses, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you've got both Scottish teams in the top 8. Is that overtly patriotic, do you think?
Well, Stevie, we'll get to you in a second, mate. You'll get your chance.
I just nodded at Ross.
Yeah. No, I don't. I think Glasgow were good last year. Surprised a lot of teams, and I think they're good enough to make top 8. I don't necessarily know where. I don't think they're good enough to be in a home playoff game. But I just think Edinburgh had a really good squad last year. The previous year they were strong.
Their worst ever finish last year.
Yeah, terrible last year. But their squad, I think, deserve more. I think they've actually got a lot of quality in that squad. They've recruited well. Mm-hmm. Obviously, change of coaching there. Mike Blair's moved on, so I just think there's enough in that squad to get into a top 8 certainly.
New man at the helm for Edinburgh, Sean Everett. We'll talk about him a little bit later on when we preview this game. Tom, would you like to talk us through your top 8?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I went Glasgow as number 1 team.
Explain yourself, Thomas.
No, I did. Winner. Did Glasgow. Yeah, win Glasgow.
Why are you so horrible about Scotland all the time?
I'm not. Only the national team. I thought Glasgow were really good last year. And they only came unstuck really at Munster in the playoffs. I think they've got a good squad. I think they've got a lot of good players in there. And, everyone goes Leinster all the time. So I think they'll certainly challenge. I've got them down as winner. Dark horses, Scarlets, even though they didn't make my top 8. I was the same top 8 as you, but I went for Connacht instead of Edinburgh. I think the Scarlets won't be too affected by what's happening with Welsh rugby at the moment with the 4.5 million wage cap bill, as this team here as well. But I think the Scarlets were really good last season after January. They had a real poor start. They couldn't get themselves out of the hole. It started off with the first game against the Ospreys, which they ended up drawing, and they just had a really bad sort of first block. But I think they'll do all right this year. And then underachievers. I can't remember what I went underachievers. Do you remember?
No, I wasn't paying attention.
What? Can we get
Benetton.
Back up?
You went Benetton.
Benetton.
So
underachievers.
John's dark horses, you're underachievers.
Yeah, well, I went Benetton. I think Zebre will struggle, but they did and have done for the last couple of years. I'm not sure Benetton will be able to have the same season they did last year. I think they won 8 games. I'm not quite sure they're going to have the same effect.
Fekito coming in.
Are we still calling Benetton dark horses then, gents? Because Benetton won all 3 of their pre-season games, and for the last couple of seasons they've been genuine contenders, knocking on the door of the playoffs every year for the last couple of years. Can we genuinely still call them dark horses?
Yeah, probably. I think so. They won the Rainbow Cup a few years ago, but they're all right at home, but they still struggle away from home. And you've got to win away games if you're going to get yourself into the sort of top tier playoff chances. And they just don't win enough.
I think they just tend to have spells in the season where they just drop off for 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row, and then that's enough in the league now with the competitiveness to just say, well, you're not in the picture anymore. And
I wonder how much the Italian national team will have effect on Benetton as well, because they went into the World Cup and they weren't great. I think they underachieved in the World Cup, and whether or not that's going to have a knock-on effect come club level, I think we expected a little bit more from them. It was a showcase. It was for them and Georgia, I thought, were both pretty disappointing. And a lot of people asking why are Italy in the Six Nations and why aren't Georgia in there? And I think they didn't do themselves really that much.
Horrible campaign for Italy, wasn't it? Right, Steve. Last but not least.
Yeah, I've actually went for Munster to win it again this year. I just feel Graham Rowntree signed a new contract, Andy Kiriaki signed a new contract. Everything seems to be pretty good down there. I know they've lost a couple of players, but with a fit RG Snyman, Peter O'Mahony will probably play a lot of games. Who knows what he's doing at the end of the season. How fitting would it be for him to sign off with Munster Rugby with another league title? So, yeah, Leinster in second. Glasgow obviously brilliant last year. Stormers, I feel they'll slip off a little bit. Stephen Kitskoff obviously away from them. Ulster down in fifth. Probably have to go away in a quarter final. And I'd love to see the Scarlets doing well. I totally agree with Tom Shanklin. At the start of the season, yellow cards, red cards, getting beaten by 30 or 40 points, and then all of a sudden we've seen a revival, a change in attitude and mindset, and under Dwayne Peel and Jared Payne, who's now in there as well. I think we'll see a different Scarlet side. But yeah, I think Ulster, I know we'll talk a bit more about them before they kick off this afternoon, but I just feel that it's a bit of a transitional period for them, and if they made the playoffs, I think that'll be a good season for them.
And just the 4 Irish sides in your top 8, Steve.
Just the 4, yeah. As
Standard,
always.
just checking.
Do the 4 Irish
Absolute
sides
standard.
not always make it? No. They did last year.
They did last year. Although Connor ended up knocking Ulster out and making the semis. So